The Mandalorian Episode 3, The Sin. So this episode, I would say, before finishing the whole season, for those of you who are coming across this, I've already done my review for the season finale. I'm basically just catching up because I didn't have time to review the show the way that I wanted to, but the finale was so insanely amazing, I was just like, F it, I just had to talk about it because it was insane. But until the finale, this was definitely my favorite episode. Like, the ending to this was like the craziest thing until the ending of the actual finale. Like the last scene in this episode, well, not technically the last, but like the last big moment in this episode and then the finale are like my two favorite moments of the whole season. And so this was an awesome episode. It was definitely the big action episode, I would say. Honestly, I think this was probably the second most action-packed episode outside of the actual finale. There's some stuff that happens in the other ones, and I still won't spoil it for people who are kind of watching this in order if you haven't seen the show yet. But going through this episode, it was really cool. Like, of course, it comes off of episode 2. He's got the kid. He's got his ship back. The Mandalorian, he takes off and it's like, all right, gonna go get my money, plain and simple. Get my payment. He gets his armor. He gets like, he gets his full silver armor. They have the scene where he's supposed to get a signet because he beat the, I forgot what it's called, but like the horned thing. And so he explains like, I don't deserve the signet just yet because an enemy helped me. It didn't know that it was an enemy at the time. So I don't deserve my signet and stuff like that. And then they have like the heavy trooper come in who is like, hey, this dude's working for, the Empire. Like, he's a bounty hunter. He's using armor that was stolen from our people. And so they get into like a little wrestling match where he tries to rip the dude's helmet off and then they're about to like cut each other like it's a knife fight. And so, the main woman, she's like, hey, we are living as both the hunter and the hunter and the hunted. So, you can't say that's a coward's way to live when you're both fighting and defending every step of the way. Like, every single step you take, you are either attacking or defending, and your odds are you're probably doing both at the same time because Mandalorians are so rare now. Like, we have to kind of hide out. So it's like, he's not a coward for doing this. He's doing what he does in order to survive. So that was pretty cool. He gets his full armor. He has the extra for, I think they call them like the singing birds or whatever. And I was like, okay, I know obviously we'll get to see that. So I'm curious what that means. I wasn't 100% sure. And I was like, all right, we'll see what that is. I think it's whistling birds actually. So, they go through the fight. She calms everything down. It's like, here's your new armor. Here's the whistling birds. So it's like, cool. He took the kid in. He asked the question, like, what are you guys going to do? And the client's just like, oh, that's very uncharacteristic of, the guild. Like, that's not what you guys do. You do the job, you take off. So, of course, he's having his second thoughts. He's like, man, I spent some time with this weird little creature that, I don't know what the F it is. And it's like, I don't know what they're going to do with the kid, but it's the Empire. It's probably something wrong. And so, he gets on the ship, and he's about to take off, and he sees that the little knob is missing because, Baby Yoda, of course, was messing with it. So, like, take the little ball off, and so it's like, oh, crap. And so he screws it back on, and it's just like, dang, I gotta go get the kid. So, of course, he goes back, and we have one of the best action scenes in the whole episode, or in the whole season. In all honesty, it was like him by himself. I thought was a fantastic sequence. Like, he kills a dude. He kills a stormtrooper in armor with a flamethrower, and it was like he set a dude on fire with gasoline. Like he was just wrapped in a piece of paper. I'm like, this armor, it clearly is just plastic. Like, even in the world of Star Wars, that junk is just like placeholder armor. Like, when we're rich, when the Empire has more money, we'll get you guys some real armor, because clearly it's nothing. Like, people get stabbed with lightsabers, it doesn't deflect off. People get hit with blaster bolts, it just blasts right through them. Stormtroopers die in one hit. Like, that's the point of them. Whether it's in the shows or even in video games, it's just like, boom, you're dead. And it's just like, it's just there for show. And when he set a guy on fire, I was like, wow. Like, that kind of showed me. Like, I knew it's one thing when it's a blaster bolt. It was still like, what's the point of having armor if it doesn't, if it doesn't stop the blaster bolt? But when he literally just used normal fire and it still set a guy on fire, like he caught on fire. I was like, wow. That is so useless. That armor is just so pointless to even wear. Like, you might as well just be butt naked with a gun in your hand because it's the same amount of protection. So it was funny. I was just like, holy crap, that's insane. But he was just wiping people out left and right. Of course, when he gets surrounded, he uses the the tiny missiles and they all hit their targets and stuff. So that was super cool. But I love the way it was handled. And then, of course, after wiping out all the stormtroopers, he kind of goes forward and it's like he's got the kid. And then everyone starts looking. Like, they show Carl Weathers' character, whose name I totally can't remember. They say his name, like, in the finale, but Carl Weathers. So his little thing goes off, and then everyone else's goes off, and he just knows. He's like, oh, crap, here we go. So he's like the Lone Ranger walking with this kid, And then, of course, he gets surrounded, and then it's like, all right, we're going to take the kid. You can go. No big deal. They want the baby back. We'll do it. We'll let you go free. No problem. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. I'm going to take this kid and I'm going to fly out of here. And then, of course, it starts off super cool. And, like, he does, like, a crazy jump spin. And he, like, flips and spins and shoots somebody as he's rolling into the back of, like, this little droid truck. And then, of course, the droid gets taken out. So they're pretty much trapped. He hits a couple people here and there. He does his classic flamethrower move. And so then it's like, well, how's this going to play out? Like, what in the world is going to happen? So he's totally surrounded. He's taking out a couple of people. But then it gets to the end of it. It's like, where do you go from here? And then the missile randomly comes in, takes somebody out, and I was like, okay, well, what's happening here? I was confused. I was like, well, what's about to happen? And then a bunch of Mandalorians come in, and they're just dropping down with jetpacks. The dude with, the big heavy guy, he comes out with a laser Gatling gun, and he's just mowing people down. They got people dual wielding, and they're just flying around, just blasting people left and right. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, it was so insane. Like, I just didn't expect that to happen. And I love the Mandalorians. So just seeing a bunch of them come down and they're just like, all right, we're going to protect our own, regardless of what he's doing, we're going to defend our own people. And so it's like, you have to basically move the guild. I forgot exactly what he called it. But it was like, basically you guys will have to relocate. And he was like, this is the way. So it's like, that was an insane scene. They just come down. They're just mowing people down left and right. They got jetpacks and stuff. And, he does the salute and he flies off. He's like, I got to get me one of those. And I was like, man, that was a sweet episode. Simple. And it was kind of the one where I was like, all right. Had episode 1, obviously, the start. Like, here's some characters and stuff. Episode 2 is a bit slower, but it's him kind of building that rapport with, Baby Yoda, we'll call him, learning about the Force and things like that. And then episode 3 was him being like, all right, I want to protect this kid because the Empire's not going to do anything good. It's the Empire. That's just how that goes. So, they do that, and then he takes off at the end, and it was like, man, that was a good episode. I really enjoyed it. I feel like it's one of those episodes that was really great, but there's not too much to talk about outside of just pure action. Because story-wise, of course, he went and got the kid. It was kind of like it was probably the most obvious episode of the series where it was like, of course, we know he's going to end up taking the kid, and then he's going to go on the run, and then, other bounty hunters are going to come after him. That was pretty much like, once you know that he took the kid in episode 1, it was like, okay, this is the story of the entire series. And then, of course, we go into episode 3, and that's where it really kind of kicks in because he goes back to basically take the kid, and then it's like, okay, he turns him in, and then he takes him back. And it's like, okay, here's where the story that we knew was happening really jumps off. So this was the end, or I guess the start, really to that main storyline that we knew was obviously coming as soon as he ended up protecting the kid. It was like, okay, here's where it's headed. And now episode 3 is the one where it's like, yep, you knew this is where it was headed, but let's have a cool episode anyway to show you exactly how it plays out. It was one of those journey versus ending type of things where it's like, you already knew the ending, but you kind of wanted to see how cool it could be. And they made it pretty freaking sweet. Like, the Mandalorians come down, him having his own moment where he's taking, stormtroopers out left and right, even when he's actually holding Baby Yoda and he's, shooting with one hand. I thought that was pretty cool. And that's one thing I always thought was interesting about him, that he has basically like a handgun, but he doesn't dual wield. So I always thought that was pretty interesting. He only has like his one pistol, and then of course he has the rifle on his back. He kind of doing it cowboy style, obviously with the essence of this entire series. But really love this episode. Love seeing the Mandalorians because they are my favorite thing in all of Star Wars. As much as I love Jedi, it's the Mandalorian. They're just so cool. They're just so cool. So really enjoyed that scene. Enjoyed the episode as a whole, and then it kind of leads into like, all right, well, now what's going to happen next? We have him, taking off of Baby Yoda, and then of course that means he's going to be going off, and then people are going to be chasing him down, and that's just how it's going to start playing out. So kind of exciting leading into that story, but really enjoyed this one. Of course, even whether you've already seen the episode and you're just checking this out, or you just saw the episode, I would love to know your thoughts on it. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, your least favorite parts about it. Of course, I would love to know your thoughts on all the action throughout the episode, but specifically the Mandalorian scene. It's always interesting. This is one of the shows where it's like, man, with it being, the shows, I feel always, obviously, the shows do way more than the movies do. Like, there's just more time to do different stories. So I always wonder, for people like me, it's a huge deal because I watch Clone Wars, I watch Rebels, and with the Mandalorians being my favorite thing in Star Wars, they do a lot of stuff with that, and then this is a whole series on them. So for me, this ending scene was like just a huge deal. And then I wonder, like, it's just like a cool action scene for most people, I would assume, because even one of my coworkers, he liked it. But it's just like, oh, that was a really cool scene. And then for me, it's just like, holy crap, like I was freaking out when I saw that, because I was like, I never would have expected to see that, in live action. So this is the show that I think is kind of like, man, I really want to know what people think. Whoops, dropped my phone. I really want to know what people think about this show who aren't like giant Star Wars nerds like me. It's like, if you just happen to be watching it just because, you can't escape the Baby Yoda memes, of course. What do you think about The Mandalorian? So we'll love to know your thoughts on that, whether you're a huge fan or just a casual fan of the show. We'll love to know what you guys thought about it in general. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.